All right, we are continuing our conversation, and a little fun experiment of mine of Empire of Dreams, the greatest Star Wars documentary ever made. Here's what my experiment was. If you're just tuning in, now the previous two episodes they're all linked. This is the end of a three-part series, you can call it, but the beginning of a giant Star Wars block leading into Rise of Skywalker, a movie everyone's anticipating. But I sat down to watch this 2.5 hour long documentary, and amongst those 2.5 hours, I wrote down 230 points, and I wanted to share those with you. And I started to record the first episode, 262, and that just kept going on forever. So I I did 75 on that episode. So I just said to myself, I need to break this up. I cannot do an hour-long episode just, meandering around Star Wars. But anyway, you already hear that intro music. Let's get into episode 264 of the Audio Audacity. Can I say it? Peter A. DeLuca's AKAPAD's Audio Audacity podcast. Are you with me? Let's do this. I can't wait. This long time coming. A lot of work. Let's go. I apologize, man. I was fumbling my words at the end of that. Hey, look, this it's a little bit stressful because reading, going through a list and just talking to you blindly is I hate to say it, it's a little bit stressful. It's a little bit tough, but at the same time, at the end of the day, there's nothing I would rather be doing than talking to all of you, because we're trying to remember when Star Wars was great, when Star Wars was cool, when Star Wars was awesome, when Star Wars was just enough geek before, I was in J.C. Penney today, or Macy's in Center City, Philadelphia, because that's where your boy's coming from here. And Levi just had like a huge Star Wars rollout there. I could have, for $90 I could have bought a Darth Vader black denim jacket, and I did debate it because I really thought the image of Vader, which is kind of like Iron Arn, would be awesome if it was de-stressed, and it wasn't de-stressed. It was like kind of new looking and shiny. Not really the right look when it comes to black denim. You want things on denim to be de-stressed for sure. I hate new looking denim. It never flies. But anyway, there was a time where Star Wars was just a movie. You got it from the rental store. You watched it. You talked about it. You remembered it as being the greatest trilogy of all time, having the best sequels, and that was before every single movie became a trilogy. Everything became a attempted trilogy. And I did address some of this in my previous block of the Terminator movies, where I feel like when it comes to Terminator Salvation, Terminator Genesis, and I even Rise of the Machines, and probably the new one. I haven't seen Dark Fate yet because it was in and out of theater so quick here in Philly, is that they set those movies up to be a part one, and they didn't pour everything into it. And I just feel like those movies would have been better if they were more packed with more juice, with more stuff. And I just feel like they hold back because they won in episode 2 and they won in episode 3. They won 3 parts, and we kind of saw some of this with The Matrix and Pirates of the Caribbean. Somewhat failed trilogies. The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, somewhat of a failed trilogy off of Batman Begins, because nobody likes Dark Knight Rises. I'm sorry. Yeah, so Star Wars was just something cool, and it was very geeky. It was very inside baseball, and that was okay. But now, it's too mainstream to be cool. So this is where we have battle lines when it comes to criticism of what Disney is doing with the franchise that they paid a lot of money for. People don't want it to be mainstream. They want it to be cool again, and they're not. The only way Star Wars is going to be cool is kind of what the Mandalorian's been doing. Let's just do callbacks to the original 3 movies and give you slight deviations of existing characters, and we're just going to go with it and cross our fingers. And Mandalorian did it. I feel like somewhat Force Awakens did it. and people don't give, people have already diminished Force Awakens over Last Jedi. People just hate Last Jedi. Rogue One did it, and people again knocked a lot of that movie. I don't know. I like Force Awakens. I like Rogue One. I even like Solo. So again, Peter, your host over here being a major outlier. But let's get to these points. We're going to go through some points that this documentary made about Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Now, here's the thing. The documentary was heavy on George Lucas and heavy on Star Wars, and the remainder, which is almost like 30 minutes per the rest of the movies, they allotted, I feel like Empire Strikes Back should get as much time as Star Wars, but whatever. I'm sure these people have budgets and time frames, and you can't make a 9-hour documentary on the original Star Wars trilogy. But anyway, let's do this. We're going to 147. Okay, 146. Empire Strikes Back. Fox wanted a sequel. That was a part of one of their requests to Lucas. 147. Lucas used his Star Wars earnings to secure a bank loan to make Empire Strikes Back. 148. $25 million was the budget, twice of what Star Wars was. 150. Lucas was giving a huge license to make Empire Strikes Back, meaning people let Lucas do what he knew he wanted to do, what he had to do. 151. They kind of knew the movie was going to go dark. They knew that Han and Leia were going to have a romance. These were some of the original ideas and direction of the story, and even right down to the concept artwork. Because you guys got to draw Leia in some new gowns, make her look sexy for Han Solo. 152. Lucas had a company to run. He could not direct. Okay, so Star Wars has already became an engine. This is like the Walt Disney-ness of Lucas. He couldn't direct. He had to get someone else. He got Irving Kershner to direct at 153, hired to direct Episode Strikes Back, ESB, and Kershner originally said no. 154. Kershner's agent was like, you told George Lucas no, and Kershner's like, look, we're not going to top Star Wars. Star Wars is Star Wars. And then his agent's like, do it. Are you crazy? So he needed coaxing. 155, 64 sets were made, twice as much as Star Wars. 64 sets were made for Empire Strikes Back. 157. 156. I'm sorry. 156. Lucas and Empire Strikes knew, and part of Lucas's direction for Empire Strikes Back, like what his directives was, that it had to be bigger, more complex, and better than Star Wars. He drove everyone to make ESB better because he knew there was like a future within Star Wars, even beyond Empire Strikes Back. 157. Lucas said, if Empire Strikes Back did not work, I can't make future Star Wars movies. So, Lucas, even at this point, was thinking so far ahead. 158. Kershner's smaller films emphasize on characters. Eyes of Laura Mars, was a movie that he was involved in. I made a comic book series years ago called The Eyes of Asia. Eyes of Laura Mars is one of my favorite movies, and that's where I got some of my inspiration for that title from. 159. Gary Kurtz. Bigger budget, bigger problems. That's it. Empire Strikes Back had twice as many problems as Star Wars. 160. Special effects. Some of it was like, look, you don't do snow. You can't maintain the color. You have to keep it at night. You have to keep it dark. And look what they did. Those halt scenes were beyond what they thought the technology could do at the time. Again, Star Wars breaking barriers, making headway. 161. Norway. When they were shooting in Norway for Empire Strikes Back, they had one of the worst winters in 50 years. Another trend within all of these productions. 162. It was very easy to get lost in the snow. Your tracks would get covered up almost instantly. So, It was tricky. It was tricky moving around the giant film set in the snow. Not safe. 163. It was impossible to move around. At one time, they were snowed into a hotel. They could barely get the door open. They put the camera, that we're going to 164. So they shot outside. They put this camera in the snow. Irving Kershner. Everyone was inside warm, watching Mark Hamill in Luke Skywalker gear run away from the Wampa as he escaped the cave. And it was just outside the hotel, and everyone was inside warm. 165. It wasn't until they hired and they found a talented painter, I'm sorry I couldn't get his name, for ILM to help emphasize and sell the realism of the backgrounds. And this was a key part in the animation sequence. 166. Lando is introduced, and here's a little bit of my insight, based on what Billy D. Williams, how we talked about the character in this documentary. Lando was a complete character, and he's over the top, and he is a Star Wars character. And people don't look at Lando as a Star Wars character; they always look at the aliens. But Lando, where he is in his frame within that movie, is completely Star Wars. That is why Lando's so enduring. That's why people love Lando. 167. We have a new villain, Boba Fett. 168. I Love You, I Know was something that they shot. It was take after take, and then they decided to shoot that quick. They sped it up, and they nailed it, and that's the take that's in the movie. The other takes didn't fit. Yoda, the creation of Yoda, was modeled after one of the designers, and Stuart, his Stuart Freeborn was the designer of Yoda, and he wanted to emphasize Yoda's intelligence, so he copied the wrinkles of Albert Einstein, sculpted the wrinkles of Albert Einstein onto the Yoda model to make him look intelligent. That's 169 is the favorite point of all of this, really is, because I'm a huge Einstein guy. 170, Frank Oz, the puppeteer of Yoda. 171, Yoda could only walk a little bit at a time. It was very tough to get Yoda to take more than a few steps. 172, Yoda puppeteered from under the floor, and he had multiple cable operators, and more than one person was involved with the Yoda performance, even though Frank Oz was working the mouth and doing the voice. 173, Yoda was a fine line between working and looking completely stupid on film. 174, for weeks on end, Hamill was the only person on the call sheet when they were filming the Dagobah system, where they were filming the Dagobah sequence. The only person. 175. Just the documentary showed one of my all-time favorite lines from Star Wars, where Yoda resurrects Yoda's Rogue 5, right? I think it's Rogue 5, X-Wing fighter, and Luke's in awe at the power of Yoda and the power of the Force, and he goes, "I do not believe it," and Yoda fires back, "And that is why you fail." The best line, honestly got best line in all of Star Wars. Steve Gawley, 176, described in the documentary how difficult it was to design asteroids for the meteor or the asteroid sequence where the Falcon's escaping. For some of the far away asteroids, they actually used potatoes. 177. Lucas realized that the production was not moving fast enough for Empire Strikes Back. 178. Empire Strikes Back is over time, over budget. Lucas was out of money. He had to get more. 180. New credit manager came on board. I think it was Bank of America. Came on board with new rules. He offered to pool the money. They were going to lose their loan, and they wanted to be paid back. And this is all when this happens, you have to make payroll, and they struggled to make a $1 million payroll by Friday. 181. Independents don't have the financial resources that big studios have. This was part of the growing pains of Empire Strikes Back. So things were not easy street post the original Star Wars movie being a hit. Very similar to Disney and Snow White becoming big. The two have amazing parallels. The bank had the rights. In 182, the bank had the rights for Empire Strikes Back because they were giving the loan. So Lucas decided to work things out with them, and he gave the bank a little bit more money, gave them more points, in fear that they were going to sell it back to Fox, and Fox was going to purchase all the rights for Empire Strikes Back out of Lucas's control. But that was some savvy business there. 184. Lucas paid money for licensing, more points. Okay, keep that in mind. At this point, there was a lot of 1% things that were valuable that Lucas was able to divvy around to get Empire Strikes Back made. Again, sacrificing a lot of money to make a movie. This is part of the game. 184. Empire Strikes Back secretly. A few people knew the reveal of Vader being Luke's father. Only a few people knew. 185. The script had false pages, not revealing, the big reveal. Luke being, Vader's son. 186. James Earl Jones did not believe what the reveal was. He wanted to see how they were going to play out Vader lying to Luke about being his father. 187. Kirshner went beyond Star Wars. He thought the movie, somewhat was coming together, and I just love that term that the Empire Strikes Back went beyond Star Wars. He looked at that movie as a second movement within a symphony, leading to a emotional climax. He described Empire Strikes Back as being climax-less. And I watched that recently, and he did pretty much nail that. That's a great analysis. 188, Empire Strikes Back was released May 21st, 1980. 189, within 3 months, Lucas recovered his investment. 190, up to this point, sequels were always a disappointment. Again, game changer. 191, Episode Strikes Back. The Empire Strikes Back profits shared. George Lucas shared the profits of Empire Strikes Back. He gave away $5 million in bonuses. Wonderful point there, 191. 192. Even after Empire Strikes Back, Lucasfilm was still a startup. Again, not success, not very clear. 191. Lucas expanded the Skywalker Ranch and a series of other companies. Lucas built Skywalker Ranch off of Lucas Valley Road. 194. 195. Lucas Arts, THX, ILM, and Skywalker Sound were these companies formed at this time. 196. Lucas wanted the credits to come after the film, and they were fine with this. The Guild and all these other a-holes, they were fine with it for Star Wars, not fine with it for Empire Strikes Back. 197. 197. They were fine with it with Star Wars, and they had a grievance with it for Empire Strikes Back. 198. The DGA went after Kirshner for $250,000 for violations on some of this stuff. 199. Lucas dropped out of the guilds and paid Kirshner's fine. He protected Kirshner. 200. Alan Ladd Jr. fired over Star Wars deal. Right. Fox was pissed they weren't getting more money off of Star Wars, so they fired the guy that created Star Wars for Fox. How's that going for you? 201. Ladd out, Lucas went to Paramount for Raiders of the Lost Ark. Right. Fox could have had Raiders of the Lost Ark, but nope. It doesn't matter. Disney has it all now. 202. The money spent was to secure their independence. Again, a lot of money spent. Okay, we're 203. We're hitting Return of the Jedi. So the original title for Return of the Jedi for 203 was Revenge of the Jedi. Lucas was like, I'm thinking about Return, and people were like, no, you idiot. And Lucas is like, okay, Revenge. 205. 204. Shot in London, California, and Ireland. Return of the Jedi was very spread out. This is stressful. 205. His first choice for directing Return of the Jedi was George Lucas, but George Lucas was a part of the guild and could not work non-guild, could not be hired. 206. Ford wanted Solo to die, and Solo's reasons for this is 207. He had no story responsibilities. Very much makes sense. And again, I back Force Awakens killing Solo because he really had no function. 208. Lawrence Kasdan thought someone should die early in the third act. The writer, they wanted to heighten the stakes. 209. Jim Bloom came up with the idea of calling the movie Blue Harvest to hide interest in the movie, and this became legendary. This became a part of Star Wars lore. Family Guy references this in their Star Wars episodes. 210. The Jedi expanded the cast of characters, and I say this because that's one of the intent of these Star Wars movies. We're always supposed to be introduced to new things and new characters. 211. Jabba the Hutt. That's simple. Jabba the Hutt to me is one of the most original, is maybe more original for film than Darth Vader. I'm sorry. 213. Phil Tidbit described the Rancor as a bear and a potato. I just thought that was funny. Your special effects genius guy is basically trashing the Rancor monster. Which, in reflection, the Rancor monster doesn't have a extra intelligent design. He does look like a little bit of a blob or like a paper bag. But anyway. 214. The stop and go animation did not work for the Rancor monster, and so they used a high speed puppet. And they shot it a certain way. And that was the trick to fake and mimic the scale and the movements of the Rancor monster. I just thought that was cool. 215. Richard Marquand, our director, inexperienced in special effects, never really worked with them. 216. Lucas had to be there nearly every single day of the shoot. He actually shot a lot of second unit for Return of the Jedi. This probably helped Marquand a big deal. 219. Warwick Davis's grandmother heard a radio advertisement looking for little people. He later became Wicket. 210. Davis was given Wicket after Kenny Baker got food poisoning. Kenny Baker is our performer for R2-D2, and R.I.P. Kenny Baker. 221. Davis was 11 years old, acting opposite Carrie Fisher. He was only a kid, which is amazing. 210. Wicket's movements were from Warwick Davis mimicking his dog's movements. Like Curiosity, turning his head, so on and so forth. 213. Return of the Jedi with the Ewoks represented the will of the people. If the will is strong enough, they win. That's Lawrence Kasdan. That's how they viewed the Ewok battle. 224. Days before release, Lucas went back to calling the movie Return of the Jedi because Jedis cannot have revenge. This is the expansion of the lore. Some merchandise was made, posters were printed, ads were run, calling this movie Return of the Jedi. This added to the Star Wars lore. 225. Wednesday, May 25th, 1983. Return of the Jedi is released. 226. 2.6 million the first day. This was the biggest first day opening at the time in movie history, beating its closest competitor by $1 million. 227. Lucas got a divorce shortly after Return of the Jedi. The movie broke his family. Kind of heartbreaking there. 228. Lucas, with profits, rolled them back into his companies. Again, you made 3 huge successful movies. You've made Indiana Jones. You've done these things, and you're still not there. Keep that in mind. 3 globally epic movies, tons of merchandise. Okay, you created a ton of careers for people. You've done all these things perfectly, and you sacrificed everything, and you're still like somewhat of a startup. 229. We're almost there. 1985. Computer creator within this time, let's restart this. 229. 1985, the Pixar computer is created within Lucas Studios. The Pixar computer became Pixar, the company later bought by Steve Jobs and Apple. So, and then later rebought by Disney. So all this goes back to Disney. That was tough. And 230, 1993, Lucas said digital technology caught up with Star Wars. Then he decided to make the special edition. So and I do believe that's true, because the special editions don't bother me. And that's really unpopular. You know, Greedo shooting first. If you watch Solo isn't a piece of crap in Solo. He's more of a victim. So we wouldn't buy him cold heart killing someone in New Hope, but whatever, that's a whole other thing. So those are your 230 points of Empire Dreams, the 204 documentary made by Kevin Burns. This is the greatest Star Wars documentary ever made. Quick criticism: I'm very disappointed that Return of the Jedi came in so light, and the information was hard to get some of it out of the documentary. It sucks, but hey, everyone. Wow, 26 minutes in. I love you, and we're going to talk Star Wars and New Hope next. We're going to go right to the source material, and it will be the special edition. Whatever. It is what it is. Deal with it. Talk to you later, everyone. I love you.